In this video, I'm going to be talking about how the government tricks good people into a tax evasion charge. Now, before I devoted my practice to tax, I was actually a criminal defense attorney, and I had a pretty decent record of success in law school as an intern. I overturned a criminal conviction, and then later I overturned a plea of guilty. And if you know criminal law, you know that these are kind of hot stuff. But criminal law left me rather unfulfilled. And unfortunately, as you might imagine, I could do a great job for a client and get a conviction overturned or negotiate a favorable plea. But there was a significant chance that my little innocent little angels would later be picked up for another violation. Maybe even later that afternoon. So I felt kind of useless trying to swim upstream in water that really wasn't all that warm. If you deal with criminal law, you have to deal with criminals. And criminals really don't have a lot of positive things going on. So I was really good at what I did, but I was really miserable. So when my dad and I moved into tax law in 2006, it was a huge relief. Our clients were good people who happened to make a mistake. Understandable mistakes, if you ask me, as the U.S. tax code is the most complicated thing in the history of history. And so many of our clients over the years have become friends, and we've shared business tips and opened up a world to some of the most truly dynamic, really awesome people to be around. I have the best clients imaginable. And guess what? My associates and my team members all enjoy working with these best clients too. The office is kind of a happy place, despite the difficult task of finding solutions to IRS and state taxing agency problems. Yet, guess what? Still rather important that I had that criminal law experience, as the government loves to charge good people with tax evasion. And the more successful a person is, the more of an example the IRS wants to make out of them. Sensational press releases are part of the fear intimidation machine of the IRS and the US government. Yet press releases can only be sensational if the target has some level of success. For us, because we know how this hypocrisy works, we do a pretty good job of avoiding indictments. In fact, any client who has come to us before an indictment and has listened very carefully to what we said to do has avoided ever getting charged criminally. We've had thousands of clients. Now, my secret, if you want to call it that, I really don't think it's that big of a secret, is that we know there are two parts to every IRS criminal case. There is a civil part, and then there's the criminal part. Now, believe it or not, neither side of the IRS, these two parts, neither side is really good at communicating with each other. And we use this to our advantage. Let's employ a whole bunch of analogies. Let's say that you are a pitcher and you pitch a ball to a catcher. And instead of a fastball down the middle, you take it upon yourself to throw a slider low and away. And let's say if you're a hockey defenseman, and instead of going for the puck that's closer to you, you assume your other D is going to get it. And then what if you're a wide receiver? And instead of running the post pattern that you're supposed to, you say, nah, I think I'll go deep. What if you're a bassist? You're one of those crazy bassists. And instead of playing in the key of A, you just decide to play in the key of F sharp without telling the rest of the band. Now, in all these cases, we would expect that there would be a substantial chance of failure. And this is the reality the government is going up against when trying to get a tax evasion convictions. They have two sides that really don't know what the other side is doing. It should be really hard for them to ever get a criminal conviction, but it isn't. Why? Because many criminal attorneys don't understand the civil tax side, and many civil tax attorneys, CPAs, and other tax professionals don't understand the criminal side. I want to explain to you the reason why everyone seems to fall in this trap again and again, a completely avoidable trap. Because typically when your client is under criminal investigation, you make sure that client shuts up. You don't say anything. And this is advice, it's well known, and it's what I agree with. Just shut up. They will use what you say against you. But I can tell you a story where I actually broke this rule, and it actually worked. But I think you'll see why it worked, and the consequences, if I was wrong, were kind of limited. And it's a story. It's my wife was borrowing my truck, and it is a Ford Excursion, the world's largest sport utility vehicle built specifically for the civilian market. And she was kind of unaware, uncomfortable with the dimensions of the vehicle. She inadvertently hit a traffic sign pole. She panicked, but she didn't think she caused any damage, and she left. Well, someone witnessed the events, and because my Ford Excursion has big signs on it that says IRS Medic, the next day I had an officer outside my office asking me if it was my truck and if anyone's used it. I said, oh, no, that's my truck. I'm the one who used it. Oh, wait. Yeah, my wife used it the other day, and she said she had some sort of problem. And the officer said, yes, that's why I'm here. Now, I could have been all criminal defense attorney there and said, okay, we're not going to say anything. We're going to say it. You got to do that whole rigmarole there. But I didn't. Because I knew, based on the eyewitness account, they would be able to issue an arrest warrant for my wife for evading responsibility. So I asked the officer if we could come in and make a statement. He said, sure. So I prepared my wife for the interview, and I said, it's really state of mind is really the important thing here. We know you hit it. We're not going to deny that you hit it. It's really what your state of mind and what you perceived at the time. I also had her dressed very nicely, and we scheduled the interview for actually 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning, the officer's shift. And we also pulled out a few other strings. We brought in our then 9-month-old son, who is incredibly adorable. Yes, I do fight to win. And yes, we're going to pull on the heartstrings. And with that, the officer agreed to a written warning, and my wife said she wouldn't drive my truck anymore. This is one instance where talking did work. But if it didn't work, we'd kind of be in the same situation if she didn't talk. I'd simply have to go to court, and I'd probably be able to go negotiate a noli contendere, which means as long as she doesn't do anything in the next 13 months, the charges go away, and maybe there'd be some sort of payment. So this is one instance where talking to the police or talking to law enforcement can work in your favor. Usually it doesn't, though. You really got to be careful, and you really got to be knowing what you're doing. Otherwise, you don't want to tell them anything. So now, does the same thing work with IRS criminal investigations? Should you just shut up? Can you just shut up? See, here's the problem. You got that civil side. While you don't want to talk to the criminal side to give them information, especially about your state of mind, typically, if you don't comply with the civil side, guess what? You just handled the criminal side pretty much everything they need to indict and convict. You didn't file your returns, or you didn't fix returns that you knew had a problem, or you didn't make payments or payment arrangements or make voluntary payments. That is used against you. The jury could assume, as they're listening to this evidence, the only reason you failed to act and comply was because you acted with the required mental state of tax evasion. The jury looks at you and says, hey, I got to pay my taxes, right? Guys, we pay our taxes. We file our returns. Why does this person think they don't have to pay their taxes? And this results in a conviction. It is entirely tragic because so many of them are avoidable. And that's why, despite the huge disadvantage the IRS criminal investigation has in convicting people, they are still able to convict people quite easily. On the civil side, and most of the civil tax professionals don't understand the criminal component. And that's why we think our advantage that we have as a team is that we know and anticipate everything that's likely going to happen. So the lesson I want you to fully and completely understand: Don't wait for a civil case to turn criminal by not being in compliance. And don't hope a criminal case will just go away if you aren't in civil compliance. Now, look, if you're concerned that you have a tax issue that's kind of going the wrong way and you're worrying a little bit too much about it, you always can give us a ring. You give us a ring and we'll give you a confidential evaluation and assessment of what's going on. We really enjoy helping our awesome clients, not just in the US, but also around the world, get their IRS worries far, far behind them. So, hey, what do you think? Did I explain it pretty well? Do you have any more questions about how IRS tax evasion charges happen or how the civil side works? Leave them in the comments below. And hey, let me know what you think of this content and be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.